Next on Currents News, the Pope's history-making summit is headed toward a conclusion on married priest and female deacons. We have the latest on what's happening inside the Synod. It's an exclusive from the Vatican. And big news about Mother Cabrini. Bishop DiMarzio is joining us tonight with all the latest on the drive to honor the saint and a new price tag on her statue. The fire disaster in California is getting worse. Flames are now on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Plus, impeachment tensions are high on Capitol Hill. A White House insider is going to testify, and a criminal investigation is being launched. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. Tonight, the Holy Father's historic Amazon Summit is headed to a grand conclusion. We're learning new information about the recommendations the Synod Fathers are preparing for Pope Francis. Melissa Butts is standing by in St. Peter's Square with the very latest. Melissa?
Yes, Tamara. Well, today is a very exciting day at the Vatican. The final document was presented in today's afternoon session to all of the Synod Fathers and to the Pope for everyone to hear.
A sala sinodal.
There are leaks coming out of the Synod about the content for the final document. Two main topics are ecology and addressing the pastoral needs in the Amazon. The main way these needs could be met is with a new rite, the Amazonian rite, which apart from the Latin rite separately could include ordaining married men as priests and women as permanent deacons. We don't have the document, so like Father Giacomo said, to speak about an Amazonian rite is speaking about something very complex.
There's
an enormity of themes, but popularly, this theme of ordinations has taken prominence. Other issues include culture, acculturation, and cultural dialogue within the various Amazonian groups. Drawing from last year's Synod, another umbrella topic is that of young people. There are many positive points directed to them and concerns about their involvement in drugs and what the future of the church in the Amazon will look like for them.
The Synod Fathers will be voting on the final document tomorrow morning, and they say they're not expecting any big changes, maybe cutting out a paragraph or a sentence here or there. And then all of the journalists will be meeting back in the press room around 4 p.m. to find out all of the contents of this final document. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you, Tamara.
Melissa, after the Synod participants vote, the Pope gets the final recommendations. When would he receive it, and what's the schedule for the Holy Father to decide whether he accepts the findings?
Exactly. Well, as I said, this afternoon the Pope received and heard the final document in the afternoon session. But then after that, for example, the Pope can decide to accept the final document as is, or he can also decide to do an apostolic exhortation, which is a different text afterward, further explaining what is contained inside the Synod. For example, last year's Synod on Youth, the Pope created an apostolic exhortation 5 months later called Christus Vivit. So we can see if the Pope will then do another one like that this year, or if he'll accept the final document. Tamara?
Thank you, Melissa Butts, reporting from St. Peter's Square.
Thank you.
For a comprehensive wrap-up of the Synod that you won't find anywhere else, you can count on Currents News and the tablet. We'll have full coverage of the summit's conclusion Monday night at 7 p.m. on Net TV, and make sure you check in all weekend at thetablet.org. Also, the latest Synod developments will be posted on our Facebook and Twitter sites. In connection with the wrap-up of the Amazon Summit, Pope Francis is releasing a new book on the care of creation. The Holy Father is stressing that the world needs a spiritual rebirth to see that the environment is a gift from God, and he's urging action to protect it. The Vatican's publishing house is putting out the book. Tonight, it's full steam ahead for a new memorial to honor New York's beloved saint, Mother Cabrini. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is at the forefront of the campaign to recognize the great Italian-American immigrant. Now, he's a top member of a blue ribbon commission that Governor Andrew Cuomo is appointing. The panel will handle key decisions involving a new Cabrini statue. The governor is also pledging $750,000 for the project's success. Stay with us. Bishop DiMarzio is going to be here in a few moments. He'll have the very latest on the drive to salute Mother Cabrini when he sits down with Ed Wilkinson for this week's Into the Deep segment. That's still ahead in this newscast. Turning now to Capitol Hill, where tensions are spiking tonight. A White House insider is going to testify at the impeachment hearings, and the Justice Department is launching a criminal investigation into how the Russian collusion probe got started. Sulin Surfate reports the latest developments.
For the first time, House Democrats expecting an official from inside the White House to testify in the impeachment inquiry. Tim Morrison, a top Russia and Europe advisor on President Trump's National Security Council, who listened in on President Trump's July 25th phone call with Ukraine's leader, is scheduled to appear next week. He's expected to corroborate key elements of top U.S. diplomat to Ukraine Bill Taylor's testimony Tuesday.
Bill Taylor's testimony was devastating to the president, and Bill Taylor essentially laid out a quid pro quo between the Trump administration and the president with the Ukrainian leader.
Morrison will contend that he didn't see anything wrong with what the Trump administration did, although one says there will be, quote, nuance. Sources say Republicans worry his testimony could fuel the Democrats' push towards impeachment, and they hope it will lack any first-hand knowledge of the president's actions. The New York Times reports impeachment investigators are negotiating with attorneys for former National Security Advisor John Bolton to be deposed in private. Bolton reportedly shared concerns about Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani's involvement in U.S. foreign policy with Ukraine. That's according to the president's former top Russia advisor Fiona Hill's testimony last week. This as Democrats consider the size and scope of articles of impeachment, while Trump's congressional allies continue to try to slow the investigation.
I think if we were doing this, you'd be beating the out of us.
Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham introducing a resolution co-sponsored by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell condemning the Democrats' impeachment process.
I'm not here to tell you that Donald Trump's done nothing wrong. I'm not here to tell you anything other than that the way they're going about it is really dangerous for the country.
Meanwhile, the Department of Justice turning its probe into the origins of the Trump-Russia investigation into a criminal inquiry led by the Attorney General William Barr. The move, first reported by the New York Times, giving federal prosecutor John Durham the ability to use subpoenas for testimonies going forward.
Sulin Surfate reporting from Washington. There's no word tonight on what potential crimes the DOJ is investigating. Democrat candidate Joe Biden is taking a swipe at the president over a charge of nepotism. The former vice president is telling 60 Minutes he thinks it's improper for Trump's daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner to hold advisor roles, and he wouldn't do the same if he wins the White House.
My children are not going to have offices in the White House. My children are not going to sit in a cabinet meeting.
Biden's son Hunter is a key figure in the impeachment inquiry for his highly paid position with a Ukraine energy company. The Trump campaign fired back at the Biden comment, saying Hunter would not work at the White House since his only qualification is being Joe's son. Large parts of California are being evacuated as wildfires threaten lives and homes. One blaze known as the Tick Fire is burning on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Nadia Romero reports the growing disaster.
The Tick Fire in Southern California. Engulfing homes, evacuations mounting.
This is the largest evacuation that we've had in Santa Clarita.
A similar scene at the Kincaid Fire in Northern California, forcing hundreds there to flee.
Geyserville is under mandatory evacuation,
where flames already scorch more than 20,000 acres.
The winds are just blowing embers all over the roads,
with bad air quality spreading.
Those particulates can go deep down into your lungs.
Back in Southern California, on the ground in Santa Clarita, fire crews working overtime as the howling winds help the flames spread, battling against the LA County Fire Department.
Approximately 20-mile-per-hour winds with gusts up to 30 to 40 mile per hour. So we're going to work on containment.
Up north, vineyards are burning in Sonoma County's wine country as planes drop retardant trying to suppress the flames. PG&E reporting an outage of a high-voltage transmission line was spotted right before the Kincaid fire sparked.
What appears to be a broken jumper on one of our transmission towers.
The investigation into what started both fires in Southern and Northern California continues.
In Washington, Nadia Romero, Current News.
Jimmy Carter is safe at home tonight. The 95-year-old former president getting out of the hospital after breaking his pelvis on Monday. Carter took a tumble at his home in Plains, Georgia. Doctors say he's in good shape and the fracture was minor. Earlier this month, he also fell and needed 14 stitches. The next day, he was back building a home in Tennessee for his Habitat for Humanity organization. Congressman Elijah Cummings was eulogized today as a fiery moral leader with the conviction of an Old Testament prophet. President Barack Obama attending the funeral service for the longtime Baltimore representative. Also paying their respect, the Clintons and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi all remembered the Christian Democrat as a man of soul and spirit. His daughter Jennifer spoke of her closeness with her dad.
Our connection was and remains one of heart, spirit, and soul. It is almost impossible to put that connection into words, but I am deeply grateful for it. And today, I just want to say thank you, Daddy.
Elijah Cummings was the son of a black sharecropper who rose to power in Washington over 2 decades. When he passed away at the age of 68, the Maryland Democrat was a key figure leading investigations into President Trump. There's a lot more news headed your way. Stories only available on Current News. For the first time in more than a half century, a groundbreaking step for a new Catholic school. Stand by for Bishop DiMarzio. He's here to talk about the exciting developments involving Mother Cabrini. We'll take you to an oasis of peace and prayer set in a place that sometimes encounters turbulence. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. A landmark groundbreaking. The first brand new Catholic school in almost 60 years is being built in Baltimore. More than 500 students will fill the classrooms. The school is being named in honor of Mother Mary Lang, the foundress of the Oblate Sisters. The project has been in the works for a long time and will serve the kids in the community on the rise. Tim Tootin reports on how the joyous occasion is a dream come true.
A student-led choir sang songs fit for a celebration at the site of the brand new Catholic school.
To be able to have a vision of building a brand new school in Baltimore City and have it come and become a reality for the city and for these kids, it's a dream come true.
The new school will cost $24 million, money that was privately raised for the building and for student tuition assistance.
For me, it means a new beginning and getting to see lots of new faces and getting to know new people.
The Mother Mary Lang School will be home to more than 500 students. Students now attending St. James and John and Holy Angels Catholic schools.
This is a day of joy. You know, it's about the young people that we are hoping to serve. It's about our community. It's about hope.
The state-of-the-art building will honor the memory of Mother Mary Lang, considered a pioneer in educating children of color in Baltimore.
We're delighted and we want to be as supportive as we can and get as many children as we can, because Mother Lang started this in 1828.
3, 2, 1,
Catholic school officials say what's taking place here is an investment in Baltimore City youth.
Tim Tootin reporting from Baltimore. The new Mother Mary Lang Catholic School will open in the fall of 2021. Now, for the latest on the new project to honor Mother Cabrini, Bishop DiMarzio is the driving force behind the campaign to erect a monument to the beloved saint. Now, he is being selected for a high-level state commission to make the memorial happen. He's with Ed Wilkinson to go into the details. Ed?
Thank you, Tamara. Bishop DiMarzio is here today. Bishop, we want to know the latest on this controversy with the Mother Cabrini statue. First of all, you've been appointed to a state commission. What is that commission charged with doing?
Well, the commission, it's like a commission from the state. Governor Cuomo has asked that this be done. He putting some up to $750,000 available for a monument to Mother Cabrini on state land in New York City. And kind of 15 people have been appointed to the commission, some non-Italian Americans, some other ethnic groups represented, because Mother Cabrini is the patron of all immigrants. So we wanted to show that point. And so now we've got the mandate. We have to put an RFP out for somebody who's going to make this statue with some concepts. Because some already have expressed the idea that we should not be just Mother Cabrini alone, but it should be her surrounded by immigrants. She's the mother of immigrants, the patroness of immigrants. So that's one idea. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I know at the Columbus Day Parade, we had a great time, as usual. And the float had the statue of Mother Cabrini on it. Do you think people noticed that?
I think they did. There was a lot of attention given to it on the TV and everything. So it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Before you were there and you were watching the parade from St. Patrick's Cathedral until the float came up there. Did Cardinal Dolan say anything to you about the Brooklyn float?
He encouraged me to try to get the statue in Brooklyn. That would be nice, because you're pushing it. That would be nice. So he's positive on it.
Yeah. Now, you know, talking about the site of the statue, and I guess the commission will come up with it, there's some talk that it may be in Manhattan. Like some people have said Battery Park City, facing the Statue of Liberty.
It's one possibility. It's a good site in many ways. Other ones would be the Brooklyn Bridge Park. That's a possibility. Then we have the park that's where she actually worked. The church was torn down, but there's a park on the lot.
Right.
So there's a few options, and maybe we'll do something, certainly maybe in the park to clean it up, because it's kind of disheveled. So we'll see.
Yeah. What did the governor came over to you at the parade, and you know, of course the press was all around, and it seemed that you had a great conversation going there. The cardinal, yourself, and the governor. What did he say to you? Did he bring up the Cabrini statue at that point?
Of course, that's what he talked about. He said, you know, I want to put a commission together, work with me. Okay, you know, I'm not going to refuse the offer. There's some criticism. People say, oh, you can't work with the governor. He's not a good man. Well, we don't like all his policies. The fact is, it's not his money; it's the state's money, anyhow. So we're trying to work with somebody that we don't agree with on everything. That's for sure. But again, unfortunately, this got politicized as a battle between the governor and the mayor. So we don't want to get into that. In fact, we didn't say anything that officially, from my point of view, that there was a slight. People felt that she was slighted because she had the most votes and nothing was done. So it just got politicized. It got out of control, because you can't control what people say. And so that's why I said, let's just do it ourselves. And that's how this thing started.
Yeah. Now, how about that money that's being raised by the group here in the diocese? Will that be thrown into the pot here?
Probably, yeah. And again, we don't know how much it's going to cost, but the governor said up to $750, but he's expecting the committee to raise money also.
Now, also, Mayor DiMarzio came over to you. He was the last to come to you, and you know, was that a contentious at all? I mean, he looked like he was having a good time.
I guess he wanted to assure me that someday we'd get a statue of Mother Cabrini. He didn't say when, but I think he tried to be conciliatory.
Yeah. Were you surprised by this whole stir? I mean, it really was a grassroots effort that people got upset.
It was. I was kind of surprised. I didn't even know about the effort. I heard about the statues, but I didn't know there was kind of like a votation. You know, there was 300 names put out there, and people. I didn't even know about that. So I mean, it wasn't anything that came from the diocese for sure. How people must have seen it and responded.
Yeah. Well, usually Catholics are so laid back, but this time we came out swinging, right?
That's right. Yeah, true.
Thank you, Bishop, for being with us. Tamara, back to you.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. If you'd like to donate to the Cabrini Statue Project, as Bishop DiMarzio mentioned, visit the Catholic Foundation for Brooklyn and Queens at cfbq.org/Cabrini Statue, where your contributions are being accepted. Now for a story of faith in a place you wouldn't expect to find it, the airport. John F. Kennedy International is one of the busiest in the world, with millions of travelers passing through it each year. But for many passengers and workers, it's a home away from home because of a small Catholic chapel in Terminal 4. Currents News' Michelle Powers has the story on how the little sanctuary survives.
Our Lady of the Skies has been around since planes like these flew through the clouds. Stewardesses dressed in vintage, and TWA was considered the carrier to the stars.
Airports are busy places, and people traveling through want sometimes spiritual help before they take a trip.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio says since 1955, this chapel has been an island of serenity in a sea of pressurized cabins and crowded terminals. That's why he's attending an annual luncheon held at the new TWA Hotel to make sure the little sanctuary can keep its wings.
15 Julia, request TWA taxi left Alpha.
This year, the luncheon is honoring people who know Our Lady of the Skies well. Airline managers. They've seen firsthand how the chapel responds to a range of spiritual needs, from anxieties about air travel to dealing with tragedy.
Not only people working in the terminal and at the airport, but also the passengers have a place to reflect, have a place to relax, and have a place where they can get counseling.
Where can you go to work, and that if you feel any of the stresses and pressures, whether or not from home or from work, you can easily stop into the chapel.
JFK can occasionally find itself in the center of turbulence, welcoming families facing global crises, like the recent influx of migrants or refugees fleeing civil war. For some, Our Lady's Chapel is their first interaction with faith in New York City or this country.
Sometimes it's not the best of all circumstances because they come distressed, they come because of some sad reasons. For us, it is a call to be there for them, no matter who they are, what they believe in, and what is the reason that they are here.
Foremost, the chapel serves as a connection between things way up there and down here, especially for people who work at the airport and those constantly traveling, like Monsignor Kieran Harrington, another honoree.
The airport becomes a family in itself, and the chapel is really a heart of that life.
Donations raised today help all passengers and Catholic crew stay grounded in their faith. At JFK, Michelle Powers, Currents News.
Still to come on Currents News. The excitement is reaching a fever pitch in Washington, D.C., where fans are getting ready for a weekend 8 decades in the making. Finally tonight, excitement is at a fever pitch in Washington, D.C. as the Nationals are playing their first World Series at home in more than 8 decades. Support for the Nats is even making its way onto the floor of the House of Representatives.
If the Nats win the World Series, I should say when the Nats win the World Series.
That's D.C. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton confident in the final outcome. The last time the Nats actually won the Fall Classic was in 1924 when they beat the then New York Giants. But the D.C. fans are full of hope this year. Right now, the Nats are leading the Houston Astros in the best-of-7 series, 2 games to none. That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thanks for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.